Yeah, Bosu. And it originally, the name was Both Sides Up. I had applied for Balanced Turtle because it sort of looked like a turtle. And the trademark office said, no, turtle is already in the marketplace. Thank goodness. And my attorney said, well, if you make something up, probably going to be available. And it was Both Sides Up. But in the education process, I translated Both Sides Up, which is sort of an optimistic, sort of connotation as well, to Both Sides Utilized. It's not about a plastic exercise tool. It's about your brain and your body, both sides utilized, both sides right, left, both sides up, down, right? Fast, slow, hard, soft. And when you have it gone to extreme polarity, that's where you need to be your best. You get the most bandwidth in the middle, and it's where you need to be.
Welcome to the Vitalistic Voice podcast. I'm Dr. Colin Elkin, and I'm thrilled today because I get a chance once in a while to talk to and have a discussion with some guests who I have a real inspired by and I'm in awe of. And so today I have Mr. David Weck with us. David is the innovator, the CEO of Bosu Fitness. And we're going to get into some specific conversation with David and talk about the company, talk about the products, and his big dent in the healthcare and fitness industry. So David, thanks for being with us today.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And I'll tell you what, chiropractic, being able to heal people with your hands is not everybody can do it, first of all. And I find that chiropractors are very creative people in general, very entrepreneurial. Some of them are kind of kooky, but some are.
Many are, myself included, David. So
I'm a kooky.
I'm right there.
I got a membership card.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but and I draw a lot of my influence from the somatic teachers, Feldenkrais and Ida Rolf, Moshe Feldenkrais and Ida Rolf. And Feldenkrais, I happened upon that when I was suffering chronic back pain that, you keep looking. And this idea of minimizing the effort so that you can sense and discern where the inefficiencies are. Can I coax the nervous system to reroute the river and then the body liked it, so I can have it. And without that education, I would not have been able to synthesize the East, sort of the Taoist and the meridians and all that kind of stuff. And the Western, sort of more mechanistic, okay, what's the data? What are the individual muscles? But the assembly and integration of all things, it was really that softer side that informs the harder side, because if we can be maximally efficient, which takes sensitivity to learn how to do that, now we get to use all the strength and power that we have athletically for purpose. And one of the big problems today is the science of exercise has fundamentally misconstrued, misinterpreted, and misinformed the industry with scientific authority that the core doesn't generate power and we got to keep the spine stiff and straight. And that dogma makes stronger more dangerous, because if I'm capable of producing all this force, and I haven't had 3 months of barefoot factored into my life because I'm shuttling off to all the tournaments on the weekend. My toes are like this because you probably have an advantage in a soccer cleat that's here as opposed to here, if you're going to cut and move and kick. But what do you do when you're outside of those shoes? Oh, I put on my Nikes and it does it more, right? And now if I'm stronger and I'm overtraining in a very specific thing, all I do is play soccer 24/7. I've never done anything else. There's no bandwidth in my movement for the unforeseen circumstance in athletic competition. And my personal trainer's been stiffening me to train freeze neurologically. I'm going to uproot myself. I'm going to make myself helpless in the moment. And we're going to get stronger and stronger and stronger at doing that, more familiar with this uprooted, And so non-contact injuries has become an epidemic. Right before this, I was just on the phone with a Division I soccer player who has professional aspirations. And he's telling me, he's like, yeah, on my team, all these ACL injuries and nothing happened. The person just collapsed. They need surgery and now they're not available to play in the game. So I believe that it's just a biomechanical correction that can form the foundation for, okay, I'm going to train my feet, right? I'm going to train the coil and the balance, and that will allow me to harness all of my strength and those things. So you have to mitigate for all these advantages that actually can become disadvantageous if it isn't reconciled.
Man, I love this. I love this conversation. You talk like a chiropractor, which is great. I mean, we really resonate. When you start talking about nervous system and freeing interference from the nervous system and allowing the nervous system to proliferate through the body, this is my game, man. So I love it. So I want to ask you. So let's go back. Let's go way back when you first started this company. When you first got involved in this, what was the inspiration? What were you thinking, and what was your vision at that time?
So basically, I was pursuing acting in New York City, and I was personal training as sort of the pay rent feed food, and I discovered rollerblading, and I love effortless power, and Manhattan is a roller rink, and I spent 6 years in rollerblades. I didn't walk for 6 years. And I got so good on the skates that I could be, at a bar on Saturday night with skates on. You don't even know, but I got, now I'm 6'2" instead of 5'11" or whatever. And the consequence, one of the consequences, on top of all the fun and joy and soul just satisfaction, was my feet became nubile weak because for 6 years they never articulated. They were always just trapped inside a boot. When I dropped a motorcycle one day, gas is pouring out, the brake lever, the mirror, it's broken, and I yank it up, and I feel like a little twinge in the back. And 3 days later, because if your feet are weak, you're apprehensive to load the ground. It's like you're stepping on Legos almost. The body wants to do that, which now makes that restriction sort of embedded as a strategy to avoid the pain. And I had no idea back at that time. And so I discovered the stability ball, the large inflatable ball, and just that reflexive writing and adjusting can sort of coax those little spinal muscles to sort of release from a protective grasp that they don't want to let go of. They don't know how to let go. And so you can't get better when the nervous system is sort of subcortically engaging muscles and never turning them off. And these are muscles of articulation and fine precision. They're not power muscles,
Right,
right?
right.
It's pure red meat. There's no white fiber at all. So it's not fast twitch, but it's just so perfectly like tiny, tiny. And the stability ball started to give me recovery that I hadn't experienced in more than a year. And then I saw Paul Chek. He's a real pioneer in fitness, much more depth to his work than just here's a push up. I saw him standing on the stability ball. And so that gave me the idea, or hold on to my pull up bar and sort of balance on it. And unbeknownst to me at the time, having to sort of press into that elastic ball and articulate the feet with just, these small, little tiny articulations, my feet started to get strong and my back started to get significantly better. And then it was July 25, 1999. The New York Knicks had just lost to the San Antonio Spurs, and I was on a 75 centimeter ball, which is a big one. And I did a Feldenkrais where I close my eyes, I tilt my head, I fell out. My butt hit the ball. I backflipped and I hit cinder blocks in, my 200 square foot apartment.
Wow.
And it scared me. I started kicking my feet at the fall to make sure that I could still do that. I was so scared. And that night, just laying in bed thinking, okay, I'm making progress with this, but the risk is, could outweigh the reward. What do I do? What do I do? What if I cut the ball in half? Holy shit. And a nanosecond later, I'm thinking cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. This is the American dream. I've never seen this thing before. It's more utility than the stability ball. Costs more, but it's more utility. So I think, if I can patent this, then I can achieve the American dream. And that was when the .com was like at its peak. So all your friends quit their job painting houses and now they're a day trader, right? You just put money in, the whole thing goes up. And so I had that dazzled like, okay, I want to be a millionaire, right? And it was ready, fire, aim. But I did the mechanics right, but I was completely novice. But it was just the passion, the drive, and the certainty that this thing has value, and I'm gonna show the world that it does. And that sort of kicked it off. And I like to find the ambivalence, indifference curve, right? If it goes this way, I'm fine. Goes this way, I'm fine. So I was building at it as if I was gonna form the company and, I would do everything, get a bunch of people together and do it or license it. And because I had the pivot if necessary, I was able to secure a much better license than if that's the only choice, where, oh, no, you have to be able to walk away. You're going to do your best in the negotiation. So when I licensed it, I strategically did so that I could invest in education. So I'm not just saying, oh, you do a sit up, you do a push up, and having mailbox money such that, jump. No, I don't got to jump for you, right? All my bills are paid. Kids are going to college, right? This is no problem in that regard. So it gave me the leeway to just be as intense as I am on the subject that I love the most, which is fight and flight. And fight, flight, response ability is my central driving theme. And fight and flight are two sides of the same coin. One is 100% subjective because time from here to there is measurable and can't contest that Usain Bolt was the best. But fighting is this endless complexity, completely subjective. My master's better than yours. Fighter A beats B, B beats C beats A. Styles make fights. But the key thing to fight responsibility is the ability to move now. You have to be in balance at all moments because I need to be able to change without delay. Because if there's any delay, he scores the touchdown and you're
Right,
embarrassed.
right, right.
So that was, and it's just been, constant innovation. And we're, I go at the speed of cash flow, so I don't borrow money. So, we have zero debt and we're beholden to no one but the marketplace. And 90 days from now doesn't measure the next goal, right? Where we're going to sell, we're going to rob from Peter to pay Paul so that the stock price stays high and, sort of.
So that was the dawn of the am I saying it correctly, Bosu ball? Is it Bosu or
Yeah.
Bosu?
Yeah, Bosu. And it originally the name was Both Sides Up. I had applied for Balanced Turtle because it sort of looked like a turtle. And the trademark office said, no, turtle is already in the marketplace. Thank goodness. And my attorney said, well, if you make something up, probably going to be available. And it was Both Sides Up. But in the education process, I translated Both Sides Up, which is sort of an optimistic, sort of connotation as well, to both sides utilize. It's not about a plastic exercise tool.
Yes.
It's about your brain and your body, both sides utilize, both sides right, left, both sides up, down, right? Fast, slow, hard, soft. And when you have it gone to extreme polarity, that's where you need to be your best. You got the most bandwidth in the middle, and it's where you need to be.
I love it. I love it. It's and so that you've just clarified for me because and for years. So interesting because in our practice, we had a training facility and we actually had personal trainers run the training facility. And we had Bosu balls there and we always said BOSU, ball other side up. That was our thinking, ball other side up. And now
Right.
you've just clarified that for me. So that I love it. That's great. So tell me, how did that transpire over the years? Like that, obviously that took off and you've sold, how many have you sold of those, the Bosu balls?
I actually don't know the number, but it's in the
It's in the
millions.
millions, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's everywhere. It's what I benefited from with the Bosu ball was I launched it at the crest of popularity of the stability ball. You'd go to a fitness conference, there'd be a room with 400 balls, everybody bouncing up and down on them for an hour. And here I come with a Bosu ball. So the reception was pretty good in the industry. And it was also when the environment justified having an hour-long class, step aerobics with a Bosu ball. The marketplace today, that doesn't exist anymore, right? You have to use multi-modalities and it's less about just, dancing around with an 8 count. And so now you don't have the same volume sales in the commercial environment where they're buying 30 of them to outfit the club. And it was the commercial market that kept it in the air so that our marketing budget was $300,000 annually for trade shows and not a dime more. Nothing more. No advertisements, because all the advertisers were factored into the cost to, exhibit your booth, you pay this and, blah, blah, blah. And because it is still relevant in health clubs, physical therapy offices, it stays current. And every publication, I don't care if it's TV, radio, magazine, newspaper, everybody mentioned the Bosu ball, and we didn't even know when it was coming. And the thing about home fitness to the consumer is that 90% of them will stop using that device that they purchased within a 6-month, year time.
Mhm.
The Peloton that's in the garage or whatever, it's got spider webs. The Bowflex is now a laundry, you dry the things
Right.
you don't want to put in the dryer. Your perfect push-ups, where the hell are those? So what I'm saying about this vest, which I believe will be the biggest fitness product we've ever seen because it's universal utility and it puts a smile on your face because it's a very unique patented design that allows us to now land without burden because there's a weight here and there's a spring here. So when I land, this only stops and does that
Wow.
after you've landed, and then you get a spring assisted launch, and it dampens down the impact on the joints so significantly because this jolt of power arrives and disappears in between the time it takes for you to land and launch. So let's say a sprinter's on the ground for 0.08 seconds. Well, then this thing's going to fit in between, zero point zero 0.08, the land and the launch. And it actually does it regardless of the speed at which the person is capable of. So it matches you because when you land it, it's going to do that even faster than you could do it, right? So, and then the success of this brings a lot of sunlight and a lot of water to all the other things that we do. So it's sort of, if we had only one product and that's it, we could even be further ahead theoretically because all guns would be pointed, right? We'd be doing this. But our issue is that, I mean, I've got a list of innovations that are in the queue because we don't have the resources to do everything at once. And we're already sort of hands full. But the benefit of that is when we do sort of get that catalytic spark, this is another Bosu ball. I think the fact that this is outside, the fact that you can hear it, some people won't like it, but a lot of people won't mind it or will like it. So we're going to get that editorial advertisement, the word of mouth, so that our cost per acquisition for each customer gets reduced because we don't have to build a fire, and boil the water, get the steam and vapor to make it rain to your buckets, right? This is much more, no, this is just a natural cycle. It's going to rain on Tuesday
Well, that's
and be
I'm
sunny in
glad
the afternoon.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you about your vest and I was going to ask you about the list of products because I went off your website and I'm looking at some of the things. So you've got the RMT Club, the Pro Pulse, which you're wearing. Would you say is that a Pro Pulse speed trainer? Is that what that is?
The Propulse Speed Trainer is a hand version of the spring version that was
Okay.
much easier for me to figure out and construct. To find a spring and a weight and a container that is perfectly calibrated to be, hair trigger, where do you even start? Like, and my hands are already full with, doing this other thing. And it's so revolutionary, these magic maracas, because now it's like, BBs in a container that require you to move the hand down faster than gravity because that's what overcomes the inertia. The weights are now at the top, you get to the bottom, and then you get the effect.
Right.
This works at the speed of gravity. So I can tether this to my center of mass, which is only capable of going down at the rate of 9.8 meters per second. That's the best it can do. And if you're on a mountain, it's a tiny, tiny bit less acceleration due to gravity. I don't know. And maybe at sea level is a little more, but it's so insignificant, it doesn't matter anyway, in terms of the timing. And this works at the speed of gravity. And it's funny because if you were to use these cartridges, the spring ones, in your hands and really power it, You'll actually overpower the construction of this because we're trying to bring it in at the least cost. And this is perfectly calibrated for speed of gravity. But when the spring version becomes a hand version, which it will, it has to be more robust to handle the forces that you deliver. And when you hold these in your hands, you provide more ground force to create more stride length at the same frequency and be faster, and you're activating a connective tissue recoil and fascial transmission. So it's much more systemic as opposed to localized getting hot spots in certain compensatory joints. So it will be different iterations and different iterations, and eventually we'll add technology to it so it can tell you, all the data of your last session or whatever. And so I think it's a category that I can continue to expand upon.
So, which of these products right now are you putting the most attention on, and which is getting the most attention? In other words, what is selling the most right now?
Well, what sells the most is RMT Club, Bosu balls, our Soul Steps. That's a wooden
Yes.
wedge with a patented pitch that provides advantage for. Basically, what it does is it sort of cocks the spring of the foot, so I can go forward intent in the foot. And because it's sort of counteracting that, I can now hover in a position that I would only be capable of passing through. So that poise to pounce is like you're set up, you're ready, you're not getting tired because the burden is on the bones. And if the burden is placed on the bones, then there is no burden or very little burden because the soft tissues, right, the fluid body is now capable and free to transmit force because the skeleton, you can axially load a skeleton longitudinal bone transmission. It's extremely strong. The second it comes out of plumb and it's no longer longitudinal, there's some shear, then you're very weak. And so the trick is to arrange the upper body in a manner that gives your feet a chance. And if you're stuck in the middle, there's always sort of you're going fast enough that you go through the imbalance, but the time you're on the ground, your body has to deal with those forces.
How do you come up with these innovations? This like I'm fascinated by this. And so do you have a team involved? Is there prototypes that you use and you try them with certain people or athletes? How does it all work?
Yeah, so basically, my athletic inadequacy is my gift because I'm tenacious and competitive, and I'll compete as hard as anyone because I play to win, right? So just I'm my own guinea pig first, and I have an injury that, it's recovered now, but it's, you got to be careful with it because one of these little experiments didn't quite pan out the way I, had intended. But fortunately, I didn't do it to anybody else. Right. I don't want to be Steve Martin that sells glasses and then everybody goes cross-eyed. That would be, I don't want that to happen.
The Jerk. I remember
Once
that.
I'm athletic enough to understand and know with absolute certainty that this is advantageous, and then I can empirically sort of find that out. So, okay, we have a concept that works, and then I'll bring it to, my inner circle. They will test and we modify and, sort of, I prove the concept with myself and then I prove it with, athletes that are better than me. And one of the things that's starting to happen is I created something called rope flow, where you don't jump through the rope. You focus on the rotation and the unification of down up on the beat, whereas jumping a rope is syncopated. So hands down, feet up. Rope flow is everything down, everything up. They're both important, but the priority is always the actual beat before you start syncopating and, dividing time like a boxer. I tell boxers, like, if he's not dancing your dance, either you both suck or you suck. It's one of the two. And you'll see a boxer, they're in it, right? And they'll break away to reset. Because, I got trapped in his game, and here I got to, okay, get back to my game. Let's do it again. And you see that all the time.
I just watched the video. You just posted a video a couple days ago with the rope flow, with you demonstrating the rope flow. And I thought that's like, for me, Mr. Uncoordinated here, how long did it take you to get to do that? Because you do it effortlessly.
Yeah, well, when I say a rope flow will attenuate its way to perfection for essentially everybody. And if the rope is true, so are you. So the time it takes to learn it is less important than just learning it. And as soon as you're consciously competent, well, then snap your fingers, you're subconsciously competent because it's a muscle memory game.
Mhm.
And it's the Rosetta Stone of total body integration. So every molecule of your mass is all coherent with every other molecule. So there is no need for the compensatory tension that will restrict energy transfer.
Nice. Nice.
And it will be the success of this one. We will get so much of this that will significantly cut our costs to market it. And then the marketing dollars are more like, oh, drill a hole here, put the dynamite, and the whole cliff comes off where you build a highway,
Mhm.
right? As opposed to, oh, geez, we got to load dynamite in these spots. We have no idea what's going to work. But once the story gets rolling, and that's the force multipliers, like getting on Joe Rogan, for example,
Right. Right.
is sort of the ultimate force multiplier. You're getting awareness into the marketplace at no cost.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that really
Exactly.
is that's the secret to my success.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. What like, who is your target market? Right now, the products that you make really can be used by anybody, but
Yes.
what is in your heart? Where do you see the
Yeah.
biggest advantage for your products?
Well, it's a great question, and I'll go back to the beginning of the Bosu ball, because if you say, "Who's your market?" and then the answer is everyone, well, wrong answer, you're not specific enough, you gotta tailor it to who. And so what I did was see, in order to get everyone, I started at the very top and I got the US ski team. They bought 26 units that were handmade by me so that they could send them to, South America in the summer so they can ski down there and do it. And that got the sort of the validation going. Then I did the Yankees, the Lakers, the Ravens, and the New Jersey Devils, and they were all the respective champions in those four. So those were my laser beam targeted market. Who am I trying to sell it to? The US ski team. That's who I'm trying to sell it to. But who am I trying? Everyone. So now, fast forward to now, I've got a lot more experience, and I love the idea that it has so much inherent value that other people realize and then testify to. So again, it reduces our cost. But my customer is literally everyone, and I look at life cycle. So if somebody exercised with a Bosu ball in college, high school, college, the likelihood that when they have a child 20 years after graduation, maybe, the likelihood that they will now provide that for their child goes way up. And then when that person grows up, right, it goes way up. And so that's sort of how my time horizon is indefinite because I want this to work long after I'm gone too.
Yeah.
So I have very big picture, grandiose vision, and then we laser beam in on sort of a demographic in order to create the opportunity to get to other demographics and do less to get there.
Got it. Yeah. So right now, so tell me, let's talk about specifics about the company. So I know you're located in San Diego. You have
Yes.
a brick and mortar company where you produce the products there. Is that correct?
I produce prototypes in this laboratory. We call it the Weck Method Lab. So we don't make money in the gym. The gym is a laboratory, and I was just talking to a D1 soccer player, and he's like, "Well, what are your rates?" I'm like, "Free." I said, "You come in, I'll teach you teach you what I know. You do it, and the deal is, I never talk to your agent. I get your image, I get your likeness, and I get your truth. That it worked for you, and I never talk to your agent because I'm not charging you. All right, so I don't want a call from your agent. I need your cell phone, and I need you to hold your end of the bargain, which is get better, and then I get to tell everybody." So that's sort of a fundamental approach, and I do a lot of prototyping out of here, and we have an innovation group on our website that gives people access to the device in its prototype form. So for $35 to join the innovation group, you get a $35 discount on this prototype. And it's not our mass market one, but now you're on the journey with us, Weck Method and Innovation Company. And so we get proof of concept, we get customer feedback as we're building the factory version, which we have to outsource. So we have manufacturers of the different
Got it.
products, and that's, you have to be real. I mean, even Apple Computer doesn't even have their own fabrication, right? It's a deal with some company in China. We're going to give you the business, but you hire the workers, you do, you turn the lights on. So I would like to get to that Tesla sort of objective where raw materials come in, finished products go out, and we're beholden to no one, right? If they have a fire in their factory, it doesn't matter. We didn't have a fire in ours. But to get there, and I think most companies that are selling products are probably buying it from a manufacturer that's not the same concern.
Sure, sure. So tell me, what does the sales process look like now for you? Do you have, like, an in-house sales team?
Yeah, well, yes, I've got a whole team that, tuna fishing, I call it. Like, you go out with the boat, you pull in some tuna, you eat, boom, boom, boom. But I'm sort of, bigger than blue whale. We've never seen it. That's my harpoon can't catch a tuna because it's bigger than, 10 tunas kind of thing. And so that sort of grandiosity is always my sort of like, I think that being unrealistic, which I think most people would call me, I don't think I am, but I think according to normal, I probably am. It's that organic process, and then my team does the nuts and bolts. They do the, social media marketing. We get a
Yeah.
report every week on, "Oh, Soul Steps did really great. Let's keep that ad running. Oh, it dipped off on this. Let's change it from baseball to golf," right? And so there's constantly that, the business mechanics that businesses need, and then I'm the one at the front of the boat pointing to the horizon saying, "We're going there because there is organic success. We're the standard, right? We are the foundation. My 10 fingers, everybody. You can't be your best doing your stuff without my stuff underneath." And that was always my strategy from the beginning, was to say, I'm not going to try to be the top of the mountain and lord over, but I am going to be underneath, and you got no choice now because I'm giving you a better foundation. And one of my gripes, and it is something, a source of furious anger, rage, and disdain, righteous indignation, is that in 2007, exercise science, right? The scientific peer review, he decided one day that the core doesn't generate power and the spine has to be stiff. And in order to push that narrative, Bosu ball became demonic in strength and conditioning. And they did a study, didn't even use Bosu balls. Don't worry about that. Use something fundamentally different. But the outcome and how they marketed this was Bosu balls make healthy athletes weaker. That is a scarlet letter in a strength and conditioning room that you're not even gonna take a chance. So if the dentist down the street where your kid goes and you're at a party and someone say, "Hey, I heard he's a pedophile," it doesn't matter if it's true, right? It doesn't
Right,
matter.
right.
I'm not even gonna risk it. So if the science is telling me that this thing makes healthy athletes weaker, well, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stop using it. I might even start bashing it myself, right? Because that's how you pay your dues to the club. The bucket of crabs. You got to do that. Otherwise, you're not part of us. We'll ostracize you, and we have the authority. You need to, do your CECs and your certification. Otherwise, Michigan State won't even hire you. You need CSCS behind your name. And to get your CSCS, you have to tell them on the test, yeah, the core doesn't generate power. You got to go along with the answers that they consider right. And finally, we're reaching a point where the social proof is becoming overwhelming, and the precedent for this is best demonstrated by the Fosbury flop in high jump. The Fosbury flop itself, the name flop was derogatory, and he wins the Olympics in 1968 with a gold medal and an Olympic record. 4 years later, the gold medal is not as high a jump, and he's doing the old technique. So what is that? That's called willful ignorance by the experts, because in hindsight, you should be ashamed of yourself that you didn't recognize the biomechanical advantage of Fosbury. So
Mhm.
8 years later, 1976, everybody does Fosbury, and we've never seen anything else because it's biomechanically superior. But the precedence that this thing was ridiculed, rejected, and all those things just proves the point that the limbic crisis of an expert with this impending doom that suddenly you're no longer expert. In this case, you're dead wrong. Well, what's the best thing to do at that point? Ignore it, right?
Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually. So and that's actually that was my next question is what have been over the years some of the toughest obstacles that you've endured and had to break through from?
Manufacturing costs for products just keeps going up.
Uh-huh.
And then there's tariffs, and then there's this, and then there's that. So your margin is always getting squeezed. 99.95 is better than 109.95, but you got to do 109.95 now because you can't make money at 100. Right? So the psychology, the customer behavior, you got to overcome all these obstacles. And with COVID, it was very ironic that most of the fitness companies did their very best in the past, decade or two at COVID because you had everybody trying to bring dumbbells in their house. And post COVID, and I know it because, a guy came in who's in the business. He said, "How you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing fantastic." And he's like, "A lot of guys are struggling right now." Because it's a very competitive marketplace, a lot of noise, and if someone's marketing better than you with something that's worse than you have, sort of doesn't matter. They make the sale, you don't.
Uh-huh.
But because we have relentless innovation, a relentless pursuit of better, because if you get the best, well, what's after best? It's called better or worse. Right?
Uh-huh.
It's one or the
Uh-huh.
other. So I'm always like, I'm never going to rest on the laurels because I want to improve and I want to figure out what's the next advantage.
Uh-huh.
And that's
Uh-huh.
how you find it, is you have to find it. So you find it. I think human beings have a thing where Tony Little, you said achieve, believe, or no, conceive, believe, achieve, CBA,
Uh-huh.
conceive, believe, achieve. And the hardest thing to do is believe. And so sometimes people sort of fudge that step so they conceive and then they do, yeah, we believe, right? And then they don't achieve. So it's sort of the belief, and I trust my gut, I trust my instincts, and I trust my integrity that if I know it works, it works. And that's unequivocal. I don't need to get 19 soccer players to do something for 6 weeks, and therefore now I know what it is. I think that's all games and nonsense. And science in so many different areas is completely corrupt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
100% corrupt. The fact that they're injecting babies with 80 different vaccines, mercury and aluminum and all the stuff. I mean, at some point you have to ask yourself, are there demonic, satanic people trying to, destroy humankind? And based on all the stuff that's coming out now, I mean, the conspiracy theorists are batting 1,000 on on many of these things. So, okay,
Yeah.
right?
You and I can have some great conversations, my friend. We're on the same page for sure. So,
Well, and I think more people are on that page than would admit because it's
yes.
dangerous to admit. And if you started to question 9/11, a decade ago, you're no longer welcome to the good proper party, in the
Uh-huh.
suburban neighborhood, right? Where we're all just going to ignore nonsense and bullshit so that we can keep going happy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most people are too busy to, mailbox money. I could watch a 4-hour conspiracy movie if I want, and I want to.
Hey, I got to ask you this. So one of the things that, especially with our company, is we do some consulting for chiropractors and healthcare offices, and one of the things we focus on is team leadership. And you're a very inspiring speaker. So I want to ask you, what do you do with your team specifically to inspire them and keep them, keep their energy as high as yours is?
Yeah, well, I think that I have an exceptional team. I think they believe that my, crazy is actually true. And one of our guys, he texted me one night with the prototype propulsor vest. He just, he runs Cowles Mountain here in San Diego, which is, big uphill ascend. And he texted me, he's like, "David, this is your greatest invention. Like, I just ran up that hill faster and it didn't hurt at all." And so once you have that personal experience, the manufacturer who's making this garment, this vest, is 11 miles down the road in San Diego. And the last time I went there, they were like, "David, can we get the cartridges for the vest? We'll buy them. And I'm like, well, how many do you want? They're like, okay, I want one. He wanted well, four of them. So what did I do? You ain't buying nothing. Here's 48 of these. There's 12 in each one. Like have fun with it. And how often does a manufacturer beg you to use the product? Right. So this is one where my 87-year-old mother, right, who's becoming infirm, put it on her, hold on to the kitchen counter, get your plyometrics, right?
Mhm,
It
mhm.
just feels good. And then there's something called the lymphatic flush. Apparently, and I got to look it up, but I think there's just as much lymph fluid in your body as there is blood fluid in your body, but the blood is pumping, right, and circulating, even if you're laying down, but your lymph isn't. It requires mechanical pressure to move it. And so when you stop jumping, you start dying, right? Have you ever jumped not for joy? And so if you can't jump for joy, how are you going to jump? Or you can't jump with joy, how are you going to jump for joy? Right. And this is the progressive plyometric that meets anyone because you get a plyometric without leaving the ground. Okay. Wow. And then the rope flow is my ultimate goodwill gesture to the marketplace. I started it in 2004 and I never tried to really market it because a rope is not proprietary. And if I Sherpa this thing up the hill and then, Rogue who has buying power that dwarfs mine, what if they get in the game and capitalize on my work? I'm going to put money into my proprietary products. So the rope, I always taught it. If you want to learn the Weck method, ropes is sort of the doorway into it. But that strategy and approach turned out to be incredible because this community and COVID is what sort of condensed it to actual raindrops. And in Asia, it took off. And the Asian cultures are much more deferential to, the ancestors and sort of, they're just much more deferential. And so I got the benefit that I get the credit for rope flow. And there was only one entity in the world that said, "Oh, yeah, I invented it. I looked at ancient China and nobody was doing this, so I did it." And they're now out of business. And they were doing a great job marketing. Their website was unbelievable. The beautiful product, all great, education that they copied from us. And they were the only bad apple in the entire thing. They're now out of business. And my strategy was I promote other people's ropes more than my own because that's what builds the marketplace. And the recognition that I am the father of rope flow, that's only going to become more and more significant and legendary
Yeah.
as every day goes by. And it was a very strategic, I'm going to build a market that I can do better in. But if I support everyone else, that market can become universal. One entity doing it is just going to attract knockoffs, whether you're friendly or not. So if you succeed, for every Coke, there's a Pepsi. For every Adidas, there's a Nike. For every
Uh,
Nike, there's an Adidas. So once somebody figures out they can make money in a category, well, then you've got competition. By re, excuse me, realigning the competitive landscape to include cooperation, I think that did it. Um, to to balance the cooperative and the competitive to be more competitive. And the rope flow community is filled with wonderful people. They're in it for the right reasons. They genuinely exude this kindness, this sharing, this, engagement as a community. We have this common bond that we all sort of get into flow state very readily, very easily. And it's something that you can do outside. You do in your hotel room is not expensive. So the access to it is universal. We had one of our coaches had it was either a stepchild or some foster child, someone he was supporting down in, I don't know, it was like Puerto Rico or somewhere in the Caribbean, very poor. And they found a rope on the playground and the kid got it from this caregiver. The kid starts teaching the other kids rope flow. And that's that's for free. It's just a remnant piece of rope that you found. And so now they're doing rope flow, which eventually, if you keep doing it, maybe you make your way to me and you see what else I have. And now, so it's this aggregation. And what the peer review 2007 stiff spine narrative did was it cut the branch of the validators who are the division one. They are the pros. And since I'm looking globally life cycle, if now the 100 players who play at, Cal State have never interacted with a Bosu ball and it's always been drilled in that don't use it because it'll make you weaker, now that guy's not going to buy one for his kid 20 years from now. And I would be like Mike, right? Tiger Wood, buy a Buick. Yeah, I crashed my Mercedes, but I don't. Yeah, oh yeah, but Buick pays me enough to just sit in it and say, yeah, right. So we want heroes. We want the best, and I want what the best does, right? So and that's just deep ingrained psychology, and it's why Michael Jordan's a billionaire.
So
He moved.
this is good. This is good conversation. This actually leads me into this question now. So obviously now in my world now in marketing and growth, so where's your vision for where this company goes next? And what are your strategies
Yeah.
to grow and scale? Like in other words, what is the focus of your sales team and how do you get these products out there? Is it direct B2C or are you looking at distributors and getting this to bigger units?
We do some B2C, right? We do that, but we're principally just, wait. We do some B2B in form of distribution. The bulk of what we do is B2C, direct to consumer, right? So that's sort of what we do. And
Off the website?
what's that?
Off the
Yeah,
website? Is that
well, it's off the website, but it's also the link that was in that post that we paid for that, had the offer. So you don't land on the general page, you land on, oh, this is the hybrid rope page. This is Soul Step page. So I think we do more sales when it's sort of that focused click here, buy that. So I think that because the internet's weird, it's like changing, most of the behavior is on this thing now.
Mhm.
And, it's just a different environment. So you have to sort of, move and pivot with the times. But for me, it comes down to my strategy is to go at the speed of cash flow. So again, I'm not borrowing money. And from the very beginning, my sights were set on footwear and apparel. So even when I licensed my Bosu ball and the Bosu brand for fitness products, I carved out footwear and apparel because ultimately that's where you make the real money. And I want to be a billion-dollar company that's privately owned and make Lego look small, make Mars look small and healthier for people. And so what I'm doing is I'm getting into footwear this year. And the strategy for getting into footwear begins with the least expensive aspect of footwear called an insole. This is a patented insole with a unique patented pitch that helps improve your biomechanics with your nervous system. So I'm not Dr. Scholl's doing the work for you, and I'm not Phil Knight comforting your dysfunction, right? This is about making your Nikes better, your Adidas better, your Reebok. I'll make anybody better. And once we have that, my logo is now inside the shoe, so you don't see it. Soon as we get it up and running, we get some money coming in, then we go to slides, relatively inexpensive in the footwear category. And now my logo is shining bright for the outside. And with the success of this and this and this and all the other things, that will put me in a position to actually make footwear. And I'm a shoe guy. I love shoes and I love pocket knives. Those are the two. I buy a pocket knife every month. If I'm bored and it's Friday afternoon, I'll go to Amazon and see what you got, new pocket knives. As a matter
Nice.
of fact, they have one. This is a $285 knife. It's M390 steel. You can't even sharpen it at home. And normally I'm only buying, $50 knife or something like that. But I saw this and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love it. And it doesn't pop up on Amazon all the time. I only saw it that one time. And maybe they're not paying for placement, but this sucker's beautiful. And shoes, I collected cowboy boots and my feet were like this. My pinky was under it. And I walked in shoes that hurt like hell because I wanted to be James Dean and I didn't give a crap about how they felt. It was how they looked. And I had, the exotic skins and I would go to thrift stores. I, found a pair of Stingray shoes, like Stingray. You're talking about a hide that will break most needles if you try to stitch it. And then my footwear changed to more functional wide toe shoes and barefoot stuff. But still, I mean, Vivo Barefoot, I bought them in 2005 when it was called Terra Plana. And they had a retail store in Manhattan where I bought a pair of shoes that were too big for me then and they're too small for me now because my foot has gotten so much bigger and stronger and spread out. I probably bought 40 pairs of Vivos. And now I like Zero and I like others, but I just I got these custom-made buffalo moccasins. I love them so much. So I bought 2 more pair. I got a dress pair, I got a casual pair, and I got a sport pair. And so for me, shoes is the natural place to be because I love them so much. And give me a budget and give me talent who, can construct and express and iterate and improve the ideas that I bring in. I mean, I'm gonna make the best shoes that have ever been made.
So
And I
other
think
than
I could do better than Nike by the end of the day. I really do.
is that in the queue? Are shoes in the
Yeah.
queue for you?
Oh, yeah. No, this is in the queue. I'm
The
waiting on.
insoles, yeah,
I'm going to make 3 versions because feet are not universal. Some people have 6 toes and some people have this or that. So there has to be different iterations. But this is a 2026 project right here.
nice.
And these will be called Soul Strides. I have Soul Steps that are training. I got Soul Strides. After Soul Strides will be Soul Slides. And then after that will be Weck Method footwear.
Nice, nice. So obviously in my business, one of the things that we're doing is we're implementing AI systems into companies. I'm curious, just from my own knowledge, what are you using right now with AI to help with sales, lead generation, anything like that? Is there something specific that you're working on?
I would say that right now, the most usage of AI for us is in sort of, okay, we have 30 minutes of footage, drop it into Opus. It'll make, 5-minute clips or whatever you tell it to do. We're launching a supplements brand, and I used AI to iterate sort of, graphic design, at least as a departure point, and I did really well. We found the image that way. I took a great picture of my partner and dropped it into AI. I said, make it look like Bert's. They did a fantastic job. And so now we have this sketch. His name's Marty. He's my business partner. And we found this white label supplier who has, like, I met his wife who does all the sourcing, and they are like, nerdy on supplements. And they're telling us, okay, well, this is why this one's better. And it's a friendly relationship. He's the uncle of one of the guys who comes in our gym. He's like, yeah, I'm happy to white label for you. No problem. And so I'm creating Marty's supplements. And so and we're going to have fun with it in the sense that it's, Marty's massive muscles, right? Marty's clean the pipes, right? Marty's have a heart. Whatever it is, we're just going to have so much fun with it.
Nice.
And the theme is trust Marty. And like Marty's good night's sleep. And maybe the copy is something like, Marty hadn't had a good night's sleep in 25 years. And true, boy, this stuff knocks Marty out for 5 hours. You better set 2 alarm clocks because you're going to get the best night's sleep you ever had. We're just going to have fun with it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
But I don't think we're using AI for some functions that we probably should and probably will arrive at. So that's something that might be worth a conversation with my business partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there's some assist or, to move us faster and better.
Well, one thing especially that's really big right now is customer service. You know,
Yeah.
AI agents and customer service representation, voice agents, and that is
Yes.
really big right now, especially off a website where people can go and ask questions or even book a call with a salesperson, and that's all automated, which is really really kind of fun. So yeah, no, this is. Hey, David, this has been fantastic. I love it. I love that. I love your energy. I love the conversation. So let me ask you. So what's next personally for you? What are some of your personal goals aside from the business? What do you
Um,
do after?
Yeah, I mean, my life has become so sort of attenuated down to it's my family, friends, family, and my business. And I've done so much living during my life, a decade of decadence in Manhattan in my, 20 to 30. I will not have a midlife crisis. And all I care about is my family and my work. So personally, it's really my objective is to provide the best support for my two children so that they can flourish. And so I would say that that's my personal objective.
Nice.
And my business perspective is to kick ass and, just provide value to the world and increase my power to make things happen. Money is motivation. I want to be a kingmaker in the sense that if I see a little guy doing something that's getting no sunlight, hey, you want to make more money? Team up with me. So that's sort of the objectives moving forward.
That's amazing. Yeah, this has been so refreshing for me. I love it. I love having guests on the podcast that just have so much energy, and it's contagious. So I appreciate that. Hey, so just obviously just to kind of conclude, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Very inspiring. I mean, I love the direction of the company. You've come up with such innovative ideas that have transformed the ideology of fitness, and brought it to a different level. It's not about just going to the gym with the chalk in the air anymore and pumping as many weights as possible. The whole functional training part of it has really, and I'm going to give you some credit as far as improving the ability of athletes to reach higher platforms in their success in every model, like in every platform of sport. So this has really been fun for me to hear you.